Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Worldhoppers, a collaborative channel where we get together and talk about all kinds of books that we like. All of the proceeds from AdSense and merch sales goes to charity as well. So check out links in the description for that if you would like to support. And we are joined today by a couple of familiar faces. We've got Michael and TG, and you guys know Jade and myself as well. And we are talking about some books that we have enjoyed the adaptations for, TV and movie, and then some books that we would love to see adapted for TV and movies. So, some that we have enjoyed, I gotta start it off with the newest one, Shadow and Bone, which I marathoned on Friday, and
as did I.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch this, and I thought that this might be the case for me, and I was right that I like it so much more than the books. Oh my god, okay. So much more, and I felt very meh about the books. I just reread them with Leanna and Jesse, and I just was super middle of the road. I'm going to unhaul the books. I'm never going to read them again. And I haven't reread Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I do need to reread those to see how I feel. But yeah, with the Grisha trilogy, I was like, it's fine. I don't know. And oh my gosh, the show was so superior.
The show was really good.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the books. I did read the trilogy back in like 2015, so it's been a long time. But I enjoyed them when I read them. I haven't reread them, but I thought the show was really good. And I really liked, so the book series, you have the trilogy, and then the Six of Crows duology takes place afterwards, timeline-wise, but they like integrated them. They basically used the characters from the Six of Crows and like integrated a new plot line so that we could be introduced to both sets of characters at the same time. And I really liked how they did that.
Yeah.
And there were some things from Six of Crow duology that like we know happened in the past, but wasn't like in that timeline that we got to see actually happen in the show. And so I really like how they melded it all together. I loved how they did like the magic, I thought was done really well. And a lot of times with TV adaptations for fantasy, especially for YA books, but just like even adult ones, I feel like they're like a little cheesy, or they come off as being kind of like sci-fi original sort of things with like the magic and effects and stuff. And I felt like Netflix did a really good job. It felt very, I don't know, sophisticated to me.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I was nervous about the like how they were gonna weave in the Six of Crows with the Grinch. I was like, how is this gonna like? I didn't know if they were just gonna like cut from one to the other and like they were gonna be separate. If they weave them in, how that was gonna work. And yeah, I thought it was like all my best like fan fiction dreams coming true and like being really good, really solid. Like seeing characters interact with each other, like, oh my god, no way! Like, that didn't happen in the books, but it happened.
Yeah, I was happy with all the changes they made. But I have to admit that I'm generally pretty like, I'm not super strict about, when they change things in adaptations. As long as I think it like fits, like I'm pretty good at seeing adaptations as being like separate from the original. And as long as I think it makes sense and stuff, like it doesn't really bother me. But I didn't have it's very rare that I don't have any issues at all with an adaptation, I feel like. And I didn't have any issues with anything that they did. I liked it a lot. Yeah. So
my only thing
recommend.
Yeah, I definitely do also. The only thing that like I kind of was like, why is this? They like upped the racism in it like a lot, like adding like racial slurs all over the place that weren't in the books. And I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, I was confused by that. I was watching it with a friend and she had read it more recently. And I was like, I don't remember that. But I didn't know if it was because I just didn't remember it. And she was like, no, that wasn't in the books.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter that one of the writers is a biracial Asian American who like wanted to add in their experiences, but yeah, I'm also seeing a lot of discourse of people being like, but why did we need to add that though?
I don't know. I thought it added a nice like layer. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't have like major issues with it though, and like the biggest thing with an adaptation is like they can really mess up the characters or the plot, and I just feel like the characters were so much better. Better, they had personality. Oh my god, I loved it.
Yeah,
so I have never read the books. So as someone who hasn't read the books, do you recommend knocking out the show before you read the books? You guys recommend that?
Me personally, yes, I say just skip the books.
So I'm actually someone who's not a stickler for reading books before watching the adaptations. I honestly often prefer to see an adaptation first, and then because I feel my argument is if I read the book and love it, and then I watch the adaptation, I could be disappointed. But if I watch the adaptation and I love it, then I might read the books and
like it more.
And then I end up enjoying both things instead of only enjoying one thing. So I usually do it backwards. I know that's like kind of a no-no for a lot of book lovers, but that's my opinion anyway. So I definitely say go for it. But I do think that if you read, I don't know, there's a chance that you might be disappointed with the books if you watch first, but I don't know. I don't care.
There's a high chance.
Yeah, I don't really care.
I've only read 6 of Crows. I did not read the first 3, and I have not read Crooked Kingdom. But I was still curious about it anyway, just because it seems like everybody else is loving it, and it's something that I have access to. So,
are you going to watch the show, Michael?
I probably will. I don't have time
I mean,
to
the first
Crooked
season
Kingdom
won't really spoil anything in Six of Crows for you, or in the second.
Is it set up in a way that it's going to have a second season?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I figured that it probably wouldn't spoil too much of Kingdom then.
Yeah, the timeline, like at the end, like you're basically caught up with like almost the beginning of Six of Crows as far as those characters.
I was curious because I thought that it was originally, as Jade mentioned, like a sequential thing, but now it seems like it was parallel because I didn't think that the characters were supposed to be intertwining, but it seems like that was the
in the books they don't. So yeah.
So definitely recommend that adaptation. I knew you were going to talk about it, Joshana. I binged it on Friday. It was so good. I don't usually binge shows, but I just wanted to. I didn't want to be spoiled by people online, like their opinions of it. I wanted to like.
I already on Friday was seeing stuff on Twitter. I was like, I can't look at this till I finish. Like everybody's talking about like, oh my god, episode blah, whatever. I'm like, stop.
What, Michael?
How long is each episode?
Like 40 minutes to like 50 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
50 to an hour or whatever.
Cool.
Yep.
What's another adaptation you guys are a fan of?
One that always is like just timeless for me, and I love the books, and I love all 3 of the books, and I like all of the movies, is The Hunger Games. I just think it's a really solid adaptation.
I agree.
Yeah, I was going to have that on my list. I really enjoyed those adaptations as well.
No.
I do still prefer the books because you're in Katniss's head, and so you get a lot more like understanding of like why things are happening or why she's doing something, versus like one of my friends watched all the movies with me, and sometimes she was like, I don't get why I'm like, so but in the book, like she's thinking this the whole time, so you know, whatever. So I do still prefer the books, but I think they're really, really solid.
A series that I think did better in the adaptation was The Magicians. I don't know if any of y'all has read that.
I haven't,
but I've seen the first 2 or 3 seasons.
2 or 3 seasons on Sci-Fi.
And I've heard about the first book. So many people hate it. Some people love it, but I've seen many people. Yeah.
I'm very much a mad to not a fan of that series. But I watched I think there were maybe 6 seasons on Sci-Fi, and I watched the first 4. And I think they were all like way better. And I think it's because they with the show, you don't follow just one guy. Like they spread out, giving all the cast supporting equal good time. And my biggest gripe with the books was the main character. Like I wasn't a fan with him. So they gave all the supporting characters about equal shine. I was like, oh, I like this. Like there's less of this guy I don't like and more of the other people I like. So I think that's why the show did pretty good.
Yeah, that has really
that makes sense. I've been interested in watching the show. I've heard mixed things about the books, and from what I've heard about the books, I'm not sure if I would like them.
Yeah.
And like I said, I like to watch adaptations first anyway, so I kind of want to just watch the show. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun one. Margot, right? That's her name.
Yep.
She's my
a firecracker.
My main lady.
I mean, I feel like we can't not talk about Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
I love the ending of the show.
No, nobody did.
But most of the show I truly love.
And
And
we do
I
not
love
see
the
it.
characters. And I hadn't heard of the book series before the show came out. And we watched the first episode of the first season and we're totally hooked, my husband and I. I thought that the White Walker thing was like so cool. I was like, what is that? They're like zombies, but they're like not. Like, I need to know more. And I'm a huge like zombie fan. Like, I love watching zombie movies. So having that thrown into a fantasy setting was like super appealing to me. And then all of like the politics and stuff that you get introduced to, I was immediately hooked. And I mean, the last like 2 seasons, I think the second to last season I feel meh about, and then the last season I really hated. But that doesn't discount the 6 other seasons that I loved. So definitely a favorite adaptation.
Yeah. I think when I was on a live stream with EB, I told her I'm like the opposite of what you said, Jay. Like I agree with what you said. No, the seasons I liked. I liked all the first 6 seasons. Okay. I despise the last 2 seasons. But for me, that kind of ruins the show because I never want to go back and binge it because I know where it's going to end. And I'm just like, so it spoiled it for me because it ended well. Like I'm someone who has to have a decent ending for me to enjoy the whole picture because it just I don't know. But I did read the books before the show came out, and I just remember like just like this as people got to like the red wedding, and I was like, oh gosh, I can't wait to see what people are going to think. It's like, oh, you guys getting close, and then when it happened, like I was slightly shocked because they ended up like shaking more people than they did in the books. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? So like, and I think that was at probably like peak Game of Thrones, like red wedding ish time, like that season 3, 4, like that was like everybody and their mom were talking about it, and like it was just like. You know, you could not go to work without everyone saying like, were you up last night watching it? Oh yeah, man. What do you think? Like, you know, so the first 75% of Game of Thrones was an excellent adaptation. I agree.
And it was so cool because it was so many people who were not readers were into it. Yeah, I would go to work and like we talk about because you had to watch the episode like the night it came out, so you could talk about it the next day. And it was just such a fun experience. So I did watch the first season before I read the books, and then I read all of the books that were out, which I'm pretty sure are all the same books that are out now, and then watched the rest of the show. And at this point, like I hardly remember the books because I've watched many of the early seasons multiple times. Like whenever a new season was coming out, we'd do like a binge of at least the last 2 seasons. And so a lot of the early seasons are fairly like cemented in my head, and I don't really remember the differences between the books. Because I know that there are a lot of differences, but you're right. I will never go back and rewatch those seasons because there's no point because I like hated the ending. Yeah,
I'm still rewatching. I still watch everybody react to it and stuff.
It's so good.
I think that would be fun though, like because you're watching reactions.
Yeah,
and seeing people react to how it ends, I think is a fun experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Do people get really mad?
Yeah, definitely. Like confused and just like, what even is going on? Like,
I don't understand what the showrunners were thinking. Like, how did they think that was going to be satisfying?
I don't know. It doesn't ruin it for me though. Like, I still love it. But like I said, I've seen I think 40 some different reaction channels go through the whole series. Like, it's a problem. I just watch tribute videos all the time on YouTube to like different characters. And every time I'm like, oh my God, I love them. I'm like crying. It's real sad. I never actually watched the show until season 4 was finished. Season 4, or no, was this season? Yeah, season 4. so right before season 5 started is when I just went back and I watched all 4 of the first 4 seasons in a weekend. Like I did not leave my house.
I can't imagine doing that. Like that had been a really cool experience.
I was obsessed. I went home on Friday, because my boss was like, "What? You've never seen Game of Thrones? Like everything you say you love, like you would love it." And I was like, I don't know. I never started it. And then my coworker also was like, "You have to." So I come back Monday and I was like, yeah, so I'm caught up. Like I literally
been like a lot of emotional turmoil over one weekend.
Yeah. I did know about the Red Wedding though, because I spoiled it for myself before, because I saw George R. R. Martin on like some late night show and they were showing him reactions. And I was like, what are these people freaking the frick out about? Like they're losing their minds.
Yeah.
I'm curious. And I went and looked up the scene, so I knew that was coming. So there were certain characters I didn't get super attached to because I knew.
Smart.
But yeah, I still love it.
Yeah, me too.
I'll rewatch it. And just make up my own ending in my head. What's
Michael? Do you have one that's a favorite?
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of adaptations that had to sort of go a different direction because they weren't finished yet. I actually really like the original adaptation TV show, like 2003 one, Full Metal Alchemist. And I watched it before I read the manga, and then I've never been able to actually get into Brotherhood because I think what the original did better was, since they were constantly waiting on the manga to be written, they had to spend a lot more time fleshing out characters and world in ways that they didn't do later on. Like the manga is just zips through things, the Brotherhood just zips through things, but there are storylines that are like, I'm still scarred to this day because of stuff that happened, because they just had so much time to like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen next, so let's let you love these characters, let's let you become friends with these people. And then when the storyline was finished in the manga and they decided to finally release it, you spent way more time than the manga ever did with the some of these traumatic events, and it really wrecked me in a way that when I tried to watch Brotherhood, it's like I don't want to spoil anything, but there's an arc near the beginning of that story that in both the manga and in Brotherhood, which I guess if people don't know, there was a manga that was decided to be adapted, that's the word, into a cartoon. The cartoon was going faster than the manga was being produced, but after the manga was done, they made another adaptation over the same exact story.
Okay.
And that one follows the comics, or the manga better. And so the original, because it was so backlogged all the time, it just really had time to let everything sink in a way that when the insane stuff starts going down, because it is an anime and it's one of those kind of animes where ridiculous dark stuff happens, it was so affecting that I still am traumatized by it to this day.
So you prefer the Full Metal over Brotherhood?
I've never been able to get into Brotherhood because of how close I was able to get into those characters.
See, I watched both of them, and the thing I like about Brotherhood is just it's tight. Like I feel like sometimes in the original you did explore more characters, but sometimes I feel like it got windy. Like they just kind of like like borderline fillery, right? Like they're like, all right, we're going to fill up this time because we don't have the story complete. Whereas the manga was like, all right, we got a complete story. You get 26 tight episodes of a beginning, middle, and end, and it's like wrapped in a bow, and you're like, oh, like this is a complete, like nice work of art, you know? So I get what you're saying as far as the attachments, especially when you get to spend more time with the characters. But Brotherhood, man, like that's probably one of my favorite because it's just like it snaps, like it slows down, but it snaps all the way to the end, and I'm just like, oh, this is great. So I get what you're saying.
I find myself extremely often siding with like TV show adaptations over movies because I sometimes like slower stories than anybody else I talk to. Like I don't mind if a story is just gonna drag or be super long for no reason. Most of the time I'm like, oh sweet, I get to see everybody's thoughts all the time. Which is like, I get that maybe that's a minority opinion.
Yeah, no, I generally prefer TV shows to movies too. I just feel like you get to spend so much more time with the characters.
You don't have to cut.
I've watched like a few episodes of one of those things. I don't know if it was the original or Brotherhood. Probably Brotherhood. I feel like that's the one more people talk about.
They recommend it more.
I haven't like gotten into it very much. I have, speaking of animes, I watched the first, was it 1 or 2 seasons of Attack on Titan? And that was a pretty good anime. I'm not like a super anime fan. Like, I haven't watched a ton of them. And then I did try to read some of the manga, but I'm just not, I don't get, like, even graphic novels too. Like, I just don't get as attached to the characters as I would like in a novel or in a TV show or a movie. And so like, it's just not my favorite form of like entertainment. So not to say that it was, you know, a bad adaptation or anything like I just don't care for the mangas. I would prefer to just like watch the anime, but I know more seasons have come out since I watched Attack on Titan, but I haven't continued and I want to.
It's good.
Yeah.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember watching it and being like, this is really violent. Like, I was not expecting it to be as violent as it was.
The last season is just as brutal as all of them, like probably even more.
Really?
So.
I mean, there's those people being like bit and torn in half by these giants. Like, it's bloody, and I was really surprised.
Yeah, I think next year they're gonna finish up because the manga's done and they did first half of the like last arc of the manga. So I think next year they'll complete it and like the anime will all be done. So you can.
Yeah, it's not all available on Netflix. Like,
I
don't have Crunchyroll or whatever because I don't watch enough anime. So that's been kind of my biggest hang up. And then one anime that I watched kind of recently because Elle had recommended it, and I'm guessing it's based on a manga, but I'm not sure, is the Promise Neverland. Do you guys know anything about that?
I have heard a bit. I think it is based off a manga, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so only the first season is out. It's really good. It's kind of like I don't know, maybe like a dystopian a little bit, but it has a lot of like twists and surprises and things, and I really enjoyed that one.
Okay.
Definitely recommend that.
Bet.
Do we have any Walking Dead fans in here?
Like season 3 and
I wish so I have quit the show. I wish I remembered what season.
Is this still going on?
Yeah.
Still going on.
Season like
I think there's 2 shows.
12 or something.
Yeah, isn't there 2?
My husband might be able to tell me.
I
think 3 or 4 is where I quit as well. There's a certain character death, and then I watched like one more season after that, and I just like, I'm trying not to be spoiled. There was like this villain that I just like really wasn't into, and I just like stopped watching. I've seen people who are still watching it say that like it went downhill for a little bit, but then it got better again. And I'm tempted to like watch more, but I think the first 3 to 4 seasons is really solid. And I have tried to read some of the comic books, but again, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the show. But the first season of the show was really good. So I had watched the first couple of seasons. And like I said, I'm really into zombies. But my husband really is not into like any sort of fantasy stuff anyways. So like Game of Thrones, getting him into that was like a big deal for me because he like doesn't really like that kind of stuff. But also The Walking Dead, I was like, you have to at least give it a shot. And he ended up binging like the first season or 2 and really enjoyed it. Justin.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many seasons of, like, when did we quit Walking Dead?
I think we definitely got through 5 seasons, probably 5.5.
Oh, maybe further. He said 5 or 5.5. So I think maybe season 4 was like when something really traumatic happened. And then season 5, we were trying to stick it out and like, we gave up. But I really liked the beginning of that show.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I never got into it.
I love zombies
and stuff, but yeah, I think because I'm not like a huge zombie fan or whatever, I just never cared. And then I got into Game of Thrones, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna rock with this.
Yeah. Another zombie adaptation that I've enjoyed is The Girl with All the Gifts. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's based on a book by M.R. Carey by the same name. And I mean, it's not like, it's kind of unique, I think. and I watched the adaptation before I read the book, and I ended up enjoying both of them. That's just like how I like to do it. But that one was a little bit different than your typical zombie book, or movie. But I would recommend that one for anyone who is into zombies. Some people might think even saying that it's about zombies is spoilery, but you figure it out really quickly. I don't remember if the trailer, I think you can tell from the trailer, because that's why I wanted to watch it. I watched the trailer. But going into the book, I think the synopsis is a little more vague. But most people, when they talk about the book, like, it's a zombie book. So,
Gotcha.
Top secret.
I mean, it's more of a middle grade, but I think that the Series of Unfortunate Events Netflix show did a better job.
That was a fun show.
Encompassing the tone and the humor of a book than maybe I've ever seen before. I think that was it Neil Patrick Harris that did the main villain?
Yeah, he was Count Olaf.
Constantly hilarious.
Yeah.
Like every single episode, or I guess every 2 episodes, he's switching to a different character, and I found that, along with the narration with Patrick Warburton, was just amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. It definitely, and especially compared to the movie that they put out,
Sure.
It's so much better. Like just the vibe of it, the atmosphere, the energy of it.
And they did a good job, doing what they had to do with the books, like taking the tone and the major things from the books without and to be fair, it had been a long time since I read them. I read them as a child, but I don't think they really missed anything major, and they did a better job about weaving in some of the mystery plot into the whole thing, instead of having that not even really on anyone's radar until the middle. Yeah,
I agree. They were giving little hints of things really well earlier, for sure, in the show. I haven't caught up with that though. I need to keep watching it.
I haven't read or watched that.
Yeah, it's.
I've watched it. I haven't read it. I thought it was funny.
I was rereading it, and I stopped at I think book 10 is the last one I read. So there's 3 more I need to reread first. But yeah, it's a very good one. True Blood is another one that I think is far superior to the books.
Mm-hmm. I'm a True Blood fan of the show.
-2 out of 10 do not recommend that you read the books.
Some of your most fun, my favorite videos of yours are you reacting and talking about Sookie from True Blood. When I first started watching your channel, it was the Sookie joints and how you ran on her. I was dying laughing.
She is absolute trash. And the show gets really ridiculous and what is even.
But I don't care. I still love it.
Yeah. And the ending, I still hate the freaking ending of the show almost as much as I hate the ending of the books. But I still like it. It's fun. It's a fun time. It's much.
I think I watched all of the show. And I did like the ending, but like I said, I'm not usually super picky about TV shows and stuff. And then I went back and I read the first 2 or 3 books, and I was just this is very romance heavy, which I should have expected. But I was not really my kind of book, so I quit the series. But I do really enjoy that show.
Yeah, same.
I forget that that's an adaptation, but it totally is.
Yeah, and it's a superior one. I don't have any other ones necessarily.
A go-to easy one is your Lord of the Rings.
How
could Rings,
can you count comic adaptations into the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Batman movies that were good, not the ones that were bad?
I mean, yeah, they're adaptations, I guess.
Most of them went direct.
I have to admit, I am not a comic book person, a comic book movie person. I've seen some of them. I think the ones that I like the best are some of the X-Men movies, but I haven't seen a lot of the newer ones. But I am totally out of the Marvel universe. I'm not in that fan base at all.
I have that as a question on my dating profile of what is your favorite Game of Thrones episode and your favorite MCU movie.
Oh, that's so funny. What's your favorite MCU movie?
I need to know.
What's your favorite MCU movie?
I don't know that I can actually pick just one. But
you make them pick, but you don't have an answer.
Iron Man for sure, just nostalgia. Black Panther for sure. And then Endgame, I feel I have to. Just the cultural moment that going to see Endgame in theaters was like not to be matched ever. I feel
having like 10 years of build up behind it. Most of our like, well, I don't know everyone's ages, but most of my life's like build up behind this movie, and I think it executed extremely well. So I have to say that Endgame is definitely on the top of a list, even if that doesn't make sense objectively.
Yeah, it was, oh man, going and see that in theaters was a time.
And speaking of like cultural moments, I can't say this is a favorite adaptation or anything, but I was a Twilight fan back in the day. And I also went to like midnight showings for all of those movies, all three of them. Or was there might have been four.
Yeah.
But I remember the last one, they like do this whole like fake out thing.
Fake out battle.
In the theater, and everyone was just like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, that is not what happened in the books. We were all freaking out and it was a midnight showing, so nobody knew that was going to happen in the movie. And it was just such a fun experience. And I remember like me and my girlfriends made like t-shirts to wear to like the midnight showings, and that was a lot of fun. I also went to some midnight showings for some of the Harry Potter movies, which I grew up watching as they came out in theaters. And I had read most of the books. I don't remember. I know I didn't read the very last one until I was in college, but I can't imagine that I watched the movie. I don't remember the timings. I don't think I would have watched a movie of Harry Potter that I hadn't read the book, though. But I did go to some midnight showings with friends for the Harry Potter movies, and that was fun. You guys remember when midnight showings were a thing, and like and you like wait in line, like, you get a good seat. Like I went to some midnight showings for Star Wars things, and we would get there like right after school, wait in this really long line until they would let us in, and we just like hang out in the movie theater until midnight. And then as I got older, they started doing midnight showings starting at like 10 p.m.
Like 10?
Yeah.
Yes, because I was an old lady. I didn't want to. And then they added in like you could reserve seating online, so you didn't have to like show up 6 hours before the show. So now like midnight showings aren't as exciting as they used to be, but they used to be really exciting. All you young kids watching, I would leave school, go to the theater, and like just like sit on the floor in this huge line waiting to get a really good seat with my friends, and it was a lot of fun.
I think one of my best experiences with a midnight showing was seeing the third of the prequel trilogy for Star Wars. And it was back at the time when everyone had the Nintendo DS, and you could play certain games multiplayer even if nobody owned it. So you just open up your DS and enough people in the line had the game that you could get up a full 8 players.
Get up and play.
And just, you just sit in
That
the
sounds
theater
so
play with random
fun.
people. You hear somebody randomly yell out because they're losing or whatever.
I love that. That's awesome.
Good times.
I'm trying to think if there are any other adaptations that I've enjoyed. I don't think so. One that I'm going to throw in here because I can't say it's one that, well, anyways, I'm excited for the Wheel of Time adaptation. It's like in between, right? Because it's like coming out, but it's not out yet. And I'm already like, I know I'm going to love it because I'm just a fan anyway. So that's one that's coming out soon that I'm very excited for.
That is one where I will watch the adaptation. But
really?
have no interest in reading the books.
I mean, I'm hoping it's one where, they take the best things from the books because the books are long. And like, there's a lot of things that I like about the books. And a lot of things that I'm just like, I could take it or leave it about the books. And I understand why people don't love the books. Like I can always see why. Doesn't change the fact that like, because I grew up reading them and there's a big nostalgia factor there. So I do love the books, but I'm hoping that more people will enjoy the show than enjoy the book. So I'm hoping they take the best parts of the books and like do a really good adaptation. And the fandom has been dying for an adaptation for like years and years and years. So I'm super excited. And I think the showrunner and a lot of the people involved are like big fans. And I think that always helps to make a good adaptation if the people in charge are already fans of the source material and they want to do it justice and not just like they're just doing it for the movie or whatever. Yeah. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that this will be a good adaptation.
I feel like it will be.
The
crossed.
the Dune adaptation I think is supposed to come out this year, and I'm excited.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was not excited about that at all, as someone that loved the book. But then I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, they're actually. This kind of looks like they might understand what was good about Dune.
I'm
That's
excited to
another one.
watch that. I haven't read the book.
Me either.
Books.
I'm not gonna.
Is
But
it a series or is it just? It is a
series, but I pretend it's a standalone.
Okay.
I always thought it was a standalone, and then like one time at the bookstore, I saw like all these different versions of it, and I was like, oh, it's
It very much
standalone.
ends in a way where it could be done.
Yeah.
That's another one where I'm excited. I want to check out the movie, but
Yeah, same.
I don't plan on ever reading the book.
Yeah.
Probably not.
All right. Well, let's switch gears to adaptations that we would love to see, and specify whether you think it'd make a better TV show or a better movie.
The first one I have, would it be a better? I feel like it would be a better movie series.
Okay. Yeah.
Like a limited series.
Just because it has like big blockbuster moments that like you just have to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
I feel, and that is Faithful and the Fallen. Yeah,
We're on the same wave.
yeah. Like there are so many moments that would be like I'm just envisioning like because I'm obsessed with reactions and like Endgame reactions like in the theaters. I was there, but I still go back and watch these reactions because I'm just like yes. And like this series would have so many of those like oh my god, like everybody losing their minds in the theater.
So, Deshaun, you think it'd be a better movie series than Game of Thrones like TV series?
I feel like maybe I don't know. I can't really decide. It could be good with that, with like HBO or something.
Like HBO back in there.
Yeah, but like
Amazon.
I said, I just feel like it would have such fun, like blockbuster moments too. But I mean, Game of Thrones did also. So like Battle of the Bastards, stuff like that. Like this has many moments like that. So yeah, I think a show like that would be good for it too.
I need to read those books. They're definitely high on my TBR. Michael, have you read them?
I've read the first one and I never continued. I liked the first one. It was just a timing thing, but I'm guessing I should finish it now.
Yes, I finished this. I'm in the middle of Valor.
Nice.
I bought all the other books, and then I bought like the sequel books, and then I bought his new series, The Shadow of the Gods, which is like I've seen everybody rave about, like Alex, Daniel Green, Alan, like everyone has been like raving about his new series. So it's like he's definitely becoming almost auto-buy for me. Like how much I'm enjoying his books, like his writing. Like I think I'm gonna steal it from Daniel, but like he has a way of getting you invested in characters in like this amount of time. Like you read like a chapter of a character, you're like, I really like this guy. Like I think we're best friends now. Like, and then something happens, so you're like, how could you do that? And like, and that it's like in 200 pages that like that wave happens, and like I've never been connected so fast to characters, and like he does it in an amazing way. So yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for you to finish the series.
No, I'm so excited. I'm so excited and sad.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna Instagram or message you when I finish. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, it's so great.
Let all my feelings out. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it'd be great.
That would be great. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for more fantasy adaptations. I feel like there's not enough. And I feel like for a long time, like the general population wasn't like super into fantasy, but I think Game of Thrones has changed that for a lot of people. So I think that the like TV and movie industry is more open to doing more fantasy because Game of Thrones did so well.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see more fantasy adaptations.
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is sneaking fantasy in because most of the time I think you think about it being sci-fi, but then when you watch a movie like Doctor Strange, that's just a fantasy movie.
Oh yeah,
there's no technology in that movie really.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, a book that I read recently that I enjoyed, I gave it 4 stars. Like I didn't love it as much as I think some people have, Jojana, but I did really still enjoy it. That is Jade City. I think that would make a really good movie.
That's we're stealing each other's.
I think that would make a really good movie. All the like the fight scenes and stuff, and like the gritty atmosphere of like the city and like the gangs. I could totally see it being a movie. I haven't read the second one because I literally just read the first one recently. but I'm sure that would make a really good movie series.
So
Yes.
me and Q are reading Jade War in May. We read Jade City also, but like I think it'd be like I've always compared it to The Wire on like HBO's The Wire because of the whole game politics, and I'm like it would definitely like I could see. I think NBC is doing an adaptation. I think someone told me that, but I could see like on a Wire like because the gang politics are such a intrinsic part of it, and that was all about The Wire, like the street politics and street. The jade is basically the same as the drug that's moving around through the gangs. And so like, I could definitely see a well adaptation TV if done right of that one.
That's true.
If it were a TV show, you could see a lot more of the pieces at play instead of just getting the summaries, which would be brutal. But
yes,
definitely.
So, but no,
and
I like
War,
Jade War is good.
I haven't read it yet.
I'm nervous to read Jade War.
I cried. So.
Oh, you're not
right? Several times I got like, oh my god.
And Jade Legacy comes out this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In like
I'm gonna read Jade War. I'm gonna try to finish the trilogy. I'm excited.
Yeah, it comes out really late in the year. I think it got pushed back to like November, December or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people. And I think honestly, it's a genre mismatch for me. I never love like urban fantasy as much as high fantasy.
Gotcha.
And
I didn't love Big City as much as like everyone else. I liked it. I think I gave it like 4 or something.
Okay, yeah, that's what I gave
like on the higher end, but it wasn't
and you
5.
liked Jade War more?
I did, yes.
Okay, I've heard that from
the impact. Like it impacted me more emotionally.
Yeah, I have heard that from a few people.
You got me excited now, Shoshana. Okay.
Yeah, I was very invested.
I'll go to the next one. One that I think would be a very Michael and Shoshana, you guys talked about the what's the show you saw, the limited like unfortunate events the series. I think House and Cerulean Sea, like it's like fun antics.
Oh my gosh, you guys are totally on the same wavelength.
I think that would be such a fun adaptation. Obviously, it starts off kind of sad and has some sad undertones, but like just I love the kids and their antics and how they go about and just just the funness they have with Parnassus and what's the main guy's name? Forgetting his name. Linus. I think that would be just such a fun show. Like a 6 episode.
Like so like lighthearted. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So lighthearted.
Yeah.
Still emotional at the same time.
So I would love a 6 episode, just like because get a chance to focus more on each kid and a little bit of the background and just bouncing around fun. So I think this one be a very fun adaptation in my opinion. So sorry, you stole one of mine, so I stole one of yours. So we're good.
Now
you're
even.
We're even.
So I feel like it should be a TV show, and maybe this is recency bias, but I just finished the 3rd book in the Red Rising trilogy, and that series is crazy. Yes.
I haven't read it yet. I'm still behind.
I had only heard it compared to Hunger Games, and I liked the Hunger Games. I didn't love the Hunger Games, and so I just didn't read it. And then Alan was talking about it on his read along, and I was like, I'll try it. And it like blew my mind, and especially like just finishing the 3rd book. It was so crazy. There's so many like constantly twists that can be weaved in throughout seasons of a TV show. You even have your mid-series breaks weaved in already if you wanted to put it on non-streaming. But it's such a bombastic series with so many big set piece moments and character betrayals and all.
It's very Star Wars-esque, right? Like
kind of, but it's so much more brutal.
It is, but that's true. Yes. Like the most brutal thing in Star Wars is someone loses an arm, but here it's like way deeper
dark,
than that.
And there's people dying all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised it doesn't already have an adaptation because it's pretty popular.
So I didn't realize that it had been out for a while. So my first thought when I read Golden Sun is, how has this not been adapted already? This seems like perfect. It would translate extremely easily, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
kind
of surprised.
I mean, I haven't read it, but I read the 1st book and then I DNF'd the 2nd one.
I haven't read it yet, but I fully think I'm going to enjoy it when I do read it.
It's so dark, but because it's also so melodramatic, it's got this weird tone to it where the main character is so broody all the time, but it kind of makes sense because the world sucks so bad. I love it.
I was thinking about something the other day. I was like, where is the line drawn between YA and adult? Like where, like who decides what what do you have to do in your book before like, oh no, you've crossed the line to adult, or versus like, okay, you still YA? Because the Red Rising series is very much the top tippy of YA. Because I remember getting the book and like it was in the YA section. I was like, oh, this is good. And like it got darker, more gritty.
Yeah,
I think it is adult. I mean, I think that the lines are getting more and more blurred. A lot of times booksellers will place things in like
weird places,
wrong ways.
On
like
the book it says Ender, Katniss, and now Darrow, and you think Ender and Katniss like, okay, Ender, like they're YA books, and they're like Darrow's like, well, is this
do me a
YA?
favor, tell me what the inside flap, what the price of that hardcover is.
Let's see.
That's usually good.
$25.
It's adult.
Yeah,
it's adult. Okay.
Yeah.
In my review, I called it YA, and a decent number of people. They were nice, but they were like, "No."
I mean, it is.
But when I bought it, it was in the YA section, so I was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
I thought it was YA, but then I specifically went to my bookstore to try to prove these people wrong, and it was the adults of mine.
Yeah. So sometimes I have a hard time telling, and I get corrected all the time. But one trick that Bethany told me is look at the pricing. A hardcover adult book will be like $25 to $30, and hardcover YA will be more like 18 to 19.
Under 20?
20, yeah, something like lower 20s versus upper 20s. It kind of depends on the book, but
I think that Hunger Games comparison that it constantly gets makes people think
YA, right? Yeah.
YA, yeah.
And it's so dramatic. Like the writing is the first person narration in the first book, especially and it's also they're all teenagers in the first one. That's why I sort of got that vibe.
Yeah.
My joke answer for if something is YA or adult is if everything the protagonist does, if Kaz Brekker had done it and people still wanted to have his baby, then it's probably YA.
That's really funny. I mean, it can be hard to tell because I think a lot of people don't realize that like there's a lot of brutal stuff that happens in YA books.
Yeah.
It's just, I think some of the difference is that it's not quite as explicit in some of the brutal things. Sorry if you guys have heard this story before, but when I talked about the Wheel of Time, I have like this intro to Wheel of Time video. And one of the things that I said in that video was that I thought that if you were a YA reader and you were intimidated by the length of the series, that like, I think you can read it because obviously it's long, that doesn't change, but it's not a super explicit book. So there's not explicit sex scenes, but sex happens. And some of the like fighting can get a little bloody, but it's not like super explicit. And I got so much backlash in my comment section from like Wheel of Time fans. Like, I can't believe you would ever suggest that this is YA, which I wasn't suggesting that it was YA, just that YA readers could read it.
Yeah.
But in my defense, they did take the first book and split it in two and publish them in YA as well. Like they were trying to get YA readers into the series. But I had a recent comment from someone who was like, oh yeah, this is YA because there's so much like rape and like people going crazy and people dying. And I was just like, okay, but those things happen in YA books too. Like,
yeah.
The line is so, like you said, so blurry. Like it's going to be hard to tell.
I mean, I never get mad at people for. That's the thing. Is like I don't get mad at people when they say the wrong thing, and then in my comment section, I got so many people. I think what it is there's a lot of adult readers who like poo-poo YA, and they're like, this is my favorite series. How dare you suggest that this is a YA series? Because they feel like that's like a negative thing.
I wouldn't be caught dead reading YA.
Like somehow the YA is like lower quality or something like that. Or it can't be good quality.
It's not. I mean, YA is vast, right? Like there are some books that we're totally on a tangent. There are some YA books that like I don't think are quite to the standard of like adult books. I don't think adults would enjoy them as much. But there are a lot of YA books that I think a lot of adults would enjoy if they just gave them a chance.
Yeah. One YA series that most people who like adult are not going to give a chance, and I don't care. I want to see it adapted. is the Throne of Glass.
I knew
I was
I
so
think that'd be
excited many years ago when I saw the news that Sarah J. Maas had a deal with, I think, Hulu to adapt something. And I was like, oh, Throne of Glass. Oh my God. Like, it's not a CW thing, so maybe it'll be good because it can very easily become like a bad CW show.
No.
But like, maybe if Hulu's doing it, it'll be good. And then recently saw that it's freaking ACOTAR that's getting adapted. And I'm angry and annoyed. And I want this adapted into a show. Because I just think...
I was surprised that it was ACOTAR over Throne of Glass too.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I liked ACOTAR, don't get me wrong. But I didn't love it as much as this general series. This series is more like... It's YA and there's romance involved and there's like YA things happening and like whatever. But it's more epic fantasy. Whereas the ACOTAR series is basically just fantasy romance, which I like fantasy romance. But like for a wider audience, I'm like, more people would enjoy this over that. But
yeah, I think so too.
I don't get to make these decisions.
I think they're kind of going to be going after the what's the Diana Gabaldon series?
Outlander.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be going after like those kind of fans maybe because that's very romance heavy.
Yeah.
And very popular. So
that's true. I don't know. They should adapt Throne of Glass though.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. One thing that I think would make a really good adaptation, and I can't believe it hasn't been adapted. I think it should be a movie. Is Dark Matter by Blake Krauss.
Yes,
Any of you guys read that?
Yes.
Yes, it would make such a good movie. I can't
thought-
believe it doesn't have an adaptation. He's had some other things be adapted into TV shows.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Dark Matter is so good, and it like was a bestseller. Like, I can't believe they are not adapting it.
I thought that I read somewhere that it had been shopped around for adaptation, but it obviously hasn't come out. But that would be an awesome movie.
I think so too. Lots of twists and turns and surprises, and it's like it's sci-fi, but I don't think it's like so far sci-fi that people would be like not enjoying it.
No, if you like
the
Marvel
average
movies,
person,
you
you know?
like it. Yeah.
And it's just the book was so bingeable. Just I didn't want to put it down, and I even got my husband to read it, who's not a reader. He really enjoyed it. I think a lot of people would really like seeing that as a movie.
Amanda loved that book as well, and she typically doesn't love like super sci-fi stuff.
Yeah. So that needs to be a movie.
Question. So we got definitely a lot of people who've read some Sanderson in this group. What do you guys think is his best, or which of his works do you think has the best shot at getting adapted first? Like, we see Sanderson on TV or movie, like which of his works you think will go first or has the best shot at going first?
It's probably Mistborn.
Probably Mistborn because it's shorter.
And that's the one that's been people have been interested in before, I think.
I would love to see Stormlight on screen. I don't know if it would make for a good adaptation. I just love it so much that I want to see it on screen. It's so long. It's so complex with like not only like the world building and the magic, but like the characters and their like inner turmoils that I don't know if that could really be reflected on screen, but I would still like to see it as a TV show so we can get as much time with them.
I have a hard time visualizing certain things from Stormlight as an adaptation, like your giant swords, your giant armor. It's gonna look like a lot of people have said it would make a better anime than it would live action.
That's
but
true.
I feel like if you actually want most people to get in the United States, at least, you gotta have to do live action.
Yeah.
I think Mistborn would be easier to visualize certain elements of it. It's more like more down to earth, I guess.
Would you vote TV show or movie series?
I think Mistborn actually could be movie series. I
think
don't
so
think it would
too.
have to be a TV show. I think whereas like Stormlight has there's so much world building and stuff. I don't think you could do a TV show. I think Mistborn you could condense enough and shorten enough, and Sanderson has even tried shortening it to a screenplay before. I think it would work as a trilogy.
Yeah.
I feel like Sanderson could just make it like he could just produce it himself, right? Come on, man, just do it. I feel like
They got so efficient. Like he just penciling into his schedule. I'm like, all right, Standard Sanderson, this is what I'm doing on my Saturdays. Producing this movie
Right.
while I'm writing 8 other book series.
Yeah, and I haven't read enough of the rest of his stuff to say if I would think. Like, I think the only other thing I've really read is Elantris, and I'm not sure if I would really want to see that on screen or not. So I don't know about the other stuff, but definitely Mistborn, I think, would make a good movie series. And I would love to see Stormlight. I don't know if it's actually like would translate very well, but I would love to see it anyways.
What I will say is if Mistborn ever gets made into a trilogy of movies, that makes me happy because it means that Mistborn Era 2 could also be adapted. And I like Mistborn Era 2 more than most people have ever met.
I think those would, I haven't read them, but just based on what I know about the world,
they would probably translate it easier.
So easy.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It feels like you're watching a movie. And they're so like bombastic in a like easily translatable way. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah.
I have no input with Sanderson, sorry.
Sorry.
I knew we had to talk about him at some point.
Yeah. Might as well throw it out there.
Yeah, I can't believe this stuff hasn't been adapted yet. Like, that's crazy to me. It's so popular, like in the book world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would think they would be at least talked about. One that I think would be a good TV show, but I don't know though if the interest would be there because it's more of like a Lord of the Rings style world with like elves and dwarves and humans and blah and whatever and magic and stuff and like this big epic.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean we love it, but I don't know if the wider audience would be like, we're over this, but the Legends of the First Empire, I would love to see.
I haven't read it yet.
As a TV show. I'm doing my reread right now, and I haven't finished the series. Books 5 and 6. Part of my read along is to read those for the first time. But yeah, it's like just this epic. It's like your classic epic fantasy thing, but like with such great characters and great character development and emotional moments and just, it's so great. I love it so much. But yeah, I don't know if like the interest would be there with the wider world, but I'd be excited.
Yeah, I think with like Lord of the Rings having already been adapted, I think a lot of people don't necessarily, like the average person, don't necessarily want to see that kind of like fantasy world again. But
it has more magic.
It probably depends. Like Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings both have adaptations coming up, and I feel like the future of your the orcs and stuff, fantasy, elves fantasy, traditional fantasy
might depend on how they do.
It might depend on how they do.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
This one just
Game of Thrones definitely changed the fantasy landscape for like TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be very intrigued to see how those two new adaptations we talked about are gonna do.
How they go. Yeah, this one I just love the characters and like the feminism behind it all, and like it's so like the themes of it are very much like brains over brawn and the strength of women and the strength of like the underdog type people who are oppressed, and yeah, I love it. But
speaking of people that were oppressed, TG, did you have Rage of Dragons on your list?
Did I have Rage of Dragons on my list? No, I did not have Rage of Dragons in my list.
I think that could be an awesome movie.
I think it would be. I want to see how it finishes first to kind of see like where we're going in this arc. Sure. Like 2 books in, I definitely am a fan. I'm just curious to see like, all right, where like what is going to be, the end game of this thing, so like we can see where we're projecting from point A to point B to see. So I would be interested in it, but I'm also I want to see where it goes first. Before I say like how it best could be adapted.
That's fair. That is fair. One that is not fantasy that I think would make a really lovely movie is Pride by E.B. Zaboy.
Ooh.
Like I think so. I don't know if anybody has seen Brown Sugar, but where that movie is this very like it's like a love letter to hip hop.
Yes.
This book is a love letter to Brooklyn. And I think if they did a movie of this with that same like tone and like introspective, reflective energy that the movie Brown Sugar has, I think it would be such a great movie. But it's like a YA contemporary, like reimagining of Pride and Prejudice. But I just think it'd be so great.
Who's that by?
E.B. Zaboy.
E.B. Zaboy.
Yeah, one of my faves. I don't love YA contemporary very often at all. And just the writing of it, and like it like just gave me warm fuzzies whenever she was talking about Brooklyn and whatnot. I just loved it.
That's dope.
So I think that'd be a good movie. It's pretty much all I have on my list. I had this one, but I don't know yet because I want to finish the series. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's all on my list as well. I guess one that I've only read the first book, but I think would make a good probably TV show is The Last Magician. Is that what it's called? Oh, shoot. I think it's called The Last Magician by...
Oh. Okay. Are you talking about that one with the white cover?
Pregnancy brain is kicking in. And all my words. Lisa Maxwell is the author, but it's a YA book, there's more books in the series now, but I've never read the first one. But it's set in like 1920s New York, which I just think is a setting that like translates really well to the screen. And it has like this whole like magician storyline. So it kind of reminds me of the movies, I can't remember. I should have just stopped talking. But it reminds me of other like magician show movies that like The Prestige, and there was like another one around the same time that they both did really well. So it's like kind of like that sort of feel. And I feel like people just like that. And I remember that first book had some like twists and turns that I wasn't expecting that were kind of fun. So I just think between like the magician thing and like the 1920s setting that it like would make for a really fun like adaptation. It's just setting wise. And then you throw in like the twisty plot and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my...
That wasn't a very...
My webcam just overheated.
Oh, no. That wasn't a very good pitch because I forgot like half the names.
It sounds good. It sounds fun.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all the ones I can think of. You guys have any last minute things to add in?
I have one last one. So sometimes it happens randomly. I go on a binge of like Law and Order SVU. Like I'll like not watch it for like a year or 2 years, and then I'll watch one, and then I'll end up watching 30. And I'm just like, why am I watching some more SVU? And so there's this book called The Whisper Man by Alex North. And it gave me Law and Order SVU vibes, like the best of it. It's like a thriller. There's this guy who lives in this neighborhood, and like kids start disappearing, and they locked him up. And then like 30 years later, the same thing happens. So you're like, is it a copycat? Is it the guy like sneaking out of jail? Like, what's going on? And so it just kind of has like, at first I thought it was like a paranormal scary type of movie, book, but it was really kind of like a grounded like SVU criminal intent type of book. And so when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm reading. It made me enjoy the book a lot more. So yeah, that's one that I would like to see in like either like a limited series, like a 5-episode series type of show, or, you know, a small movie. So that's the only one else I had.
Yeah, kind of along those lines. I've read like 3 or 4 Riley Sager books, which are thrillers. I think they would make pretty good movies as well. I feel like a lot of thrillers would make good movies, which is why so many of them have been adapted, I guess.
Yeah, they got that mass appeal. Like,
yeah, more mass appeal than fantasy books.
Than fantasy, right? So.
Yeah. I had 2 more. I'll go through them quick. One is there's an independently published author. His name is A.G. Riddle, and he does like sci-fi thrillers, kind of similar to Blake Crouch, but they're a little, I don't want to say they're more grounded because they go places, but he has a duology called the Extinction Files, which I sometimes have to warn people because the first book is about the pandemic. But it's way more than just one of those books. It's very much a sci-fi adventure where it has like largely at the beginning it has a lot of National Treasure type vibes, but there's this whole science fiction element to it, and then the places that it goes while they're traveling around the world and discovering these different clues and the secret organizations and everything that happen. That series is awesome. Also, that author, I've read a decent amount of his stuff, and I'm trying to catch up with his catalog, his bibliography, and he is just really good at writing those types of stories. They're all kind of similar. They have different levels of science fiction and different types of science fiction to them. Like sometimes they're space. This one's more Earth, but those are awesome. And then I feel like The Lies of Locke Lamora would easily be a potentially successful adaptation. The comparison I always make with that one is I feel like The Lies of Locke Lamora is like the humor from Pirates of the Caribbean if it was more crude, and like the weird plotty heists of like the Fast and Furious original movie. Because that series, it just, I will be honest, until I saw Elle's review, I didn't think people could dislike that book. And then I was like, oh, I guess everything is
that surprised me too.
Because I was like, oh, it's so good, it's so funny, and it's both extremely brutal and extremely hilarious.
Yeah.
That it was just a good combination that I think would be a great TV show or movie, maybe movie.
I think she said it was like cheeky, right? I think that's what she said. It was like really cheeky, and I was like, it is like it's very like, you know, fast little wit back and forth.
The banter is like top notch.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the book. Have you finished all three of them?
I've only read the first two.
First two, okay. So you got I forget the last one name, but that last one to go.
Republic of Thieves, I think.
Republic of Thieves, yeah. So
that's my list.
I haven't read those yet either. I don't know when the last or next book is going to come out, so I've been hesitant.
Yeah, he's been writing that fourth one for a minute.
Yeah.
He's got Rothfuss Martin syndrome. So
yeah.
I'm
really interested in those A.G. Riddle books you were talking about.
Yeah,
I love
that guy now too.
It sounds. I mean, I like pandemics, so I'd be down to read that. So I pulled him up on Goodreads when you were talking. So what of his other books have you read? Have you read the Winterworld series or the Atlantis Gene series?
The Winterworld series I love. That one starts off with like everything. That could also be an awesome adaptation, but it starts off with everything on Earth freezing, but like way faster than
love that.
And they're like, what the heck is going on? And then it really, really, really spans a lot of different science fiction concepts, but it's more space stuff, which I love. And then I am just starting the Atlantis Gene. I'm buddy reading that with Leslie over at the Nerdy Narrative.
Dope.
Fun.
They all sound really interesting. I'm adding them all to my TBR. I love the Frozen World thing. Like, what is that movie? There's a movie where like the world freezes over, and I really like that.
Tomorrow? Is that
2012?
Yeah, The End of Tomorrow. I like watching like apocalyptic movies. I've watched a lot of them. They all kind of run together. But yeah, that one is a fun one. Like zombie apocalypse, world freezing over apocalypse. Give it all to me. I will watch it.
So funny. Cool. That's all I had.
All right.
Good.
Yeah. And then we talked for an hour and 7 minutes. So it's pretty good. Ooh. Pretty good timing.
We did it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody who joined us to watch, and we will see you guys next time in another Worldhoppers video. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and be sure to check out everyone in the links.
Oh yeah, that too.